Alright, so now we're picking back up with chapter 13, and we're doing a table problem here. So on your exam, you're going to have to be familiar with both graphs and tables. So hopefully this is a helpful way to help you understand how to solve table problems. So we're looking at perfect competition, and we're saying that the market price is $5. So now we're asked to fill out the marginal revenue column. So remember that in perfect competition, price is equal to the marginal revenue. So this makes it really easy for us. We just write 5 all the way down because marginal revenue equals price in perfect competition. So super easy, part A, we already did. So now, what is the profit maximizing quantity at a price of $5? So now, uh, we're trying to figure out how many units does this firm want to sell. Because remember, in perfect competition, what firms choose to maximize their profit is the level of quantity that they sell. They have no effect over the price, as you can see. They have no market power to determine the price. So what they're doing is they're choosing the quantity that they want to produce. And remember that profit maximizing quantity is where marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost. So what you want to do for these table problems is you want to first see, okay, should I produce these first 100 units here? So should I first produce these 100 units? And what you do is you compare the marginal revenue versus the marginal cost. So my marginal revenue, so the additional revenue I bring in for producing 100 units of this good is 5, and then the marginal cost is 1. So I'm bringing in $5 and I only have to spend $1. So of course I'm going to sell these first 100 units because my marginal revenue is greater than my marginal cost. Then you move down to 200 and you're trying to see if should we sell 200 units, and you compare. Okay, my marginal cost is $2, my marginal revenue is $5, so I'm still going to make that trade. Same thing, you're going to be bringing in $5 and you're only spending $3. Your costs are only $3. You're bringing in $5, your costs are only $4. And then you finally get to this point here where the marginal revenue equals the marginal cost. So the 5 equals the 5. So we get that the profit maximizing quantity is 500 units. All right, so what is the firm's average total cost at the market price of $5? So this just really comes down to just reading the table. So I really like to circle the entire row that is your profit maximizing row. And you see that the average total cost is $2. And now we're calculating the firm's profit at a market price of $5. So remember our profit equation equals price minus average total cost times our quantity, which equals, and we already have all of these things. So price is $5 minus our average total cost, which is $2, times our quantity of 500. And we get that our profit is 3 times 500, which is $1,500. So that is our profit. Now suppose that the market price is $2. So now our marginal revenue, if we wanted to draw it in, would just be 2, but you don't have to worry about that. I'm just writing it for the sake of this, and you can kind of ignore the 5s for now. Because this is almost as if it's a new problem, because we're being given a completely different price. So now we're trying to re-optimize. What should this firm do if the market price is $2? So you do the same process where you're comparing, okay, do I make this first exchange? Yes. Do I make this second exchange? Yes. Do I make this third exchange? No, because then your marginal cost would exceed your marginal revenue. So now we're going to be looking at potentially, I'll do this in pink. We're going to be looking at potentially this quantity here, which would be 200. But before you write 200 units, you have to double check a couple things. So I'm going to copy paste this graph here just because I feel like it's very helpful to have the graph like in your, like have an image of the graph in your head when you're trying to solve these table problems, because I think we all first learned the table. I mean, we all first learned the graph, so it's easier to think about the graph and apply it to the table. So remember, it's not only uh, where our marginal revenue intersects our marginal cost, we have to consider what if the marginal revenue is, sorry, what if the price is less than the average variable cost? So what if we're in this area down here? Then we would produce 0 units. So now what we have to do to figure out if this firm is making a profit, first of all, is profit is any time that the price is greater than the ATC. So profit would be any price greater than the ATC. So let's look at what our price is and compare it to the ATC. So our price is $2 and our ATC is $5. So we know that we're making a loss. We are, well, not we, the firm, the firm is making a loss at $2 at the price of $2 because marginal revenue is less than ATC. Sorry, why am I? Well, price is equal to marginal revenue, so that does work, but usually we refer to it as price in this scenario. Okay, so because the price is less than the average total cost, so because we're in this area here, like we're in this price zone here, we're at a loss. But now we're trying to figure out, should this firm stay in the market in the short run, or should they shut down in the short run? So the way that we figure this out is if the price is in between the average total cost and the average variable cost, so anywhere in the yellow there, they're going to stay in the short run but exit in the long run. So we're checking to see if the price now is greater than the average variable cost. So if the price is greater than the average variable cost, the firm will stay in the market in the short run. Otherwise, they shut down. So let's look back at the table. So we're comparing the price of $2 versus the average variable cost of $3. So unfortunately, our average variable cost is greater than the price, so the firm will shut down in the short run. So the firm will shut down in the short run because the average variable cost exceeds the price. So that means that you are not able to sell a pizza for the cost of the ingredients. So that's very bad news. You're just going to shut down in the short run and then exit as soon as possible in the long run. All right, so then if you want to take a look at a market price of $3 real quick, we won't go into too much detail, but if you were to look at $3, let's say that the price is $3 now, not 2 or 5, uh, you would be kind of in between the ATC and the AVC. So you would stay in the market in the short run, but then you would exit in the long run. So that's how you can read these tables. All right, so now we're going to move on to natural monopoly. So the graph below represents a market structure of a natural monopoly. Use this graph to answer the following questions. How do you know that this is a natural monopoly? So besides the fact that I told you. Um, so natural monopolies, you can think of them as like very high fixed costs. So we see that the average total cost, it starts off relatively high, but then as you increase the quantity, the average total cost like plummets. So that would be indicating that we have very high fixed costs. So because the ATC starts off very high, but, oh gosh, declines as quantity increases, this indicates very large fixed costs. And one of the indicators for a natural monopoly, remember, is the very large fixed costs and barriers to entry. So that's a like leading principle of natural monopolies. So it's so expensive to enter this market that nobody else can do it. And then another thing that we notice is that, like, yes, the fixed costs are very high, but the marginal costs are constant and they're very low. So that kind of just shows the economies of scale, where if you increase production, your average total cost decreases. So also be sure to mention that we are in economies of scale. That's another characteristic. And then we are in economies. So as we increase output, so this just means that as we increase quantity, then our average total cost decreases. And we like that. That lowers the cost. So now for part B, state the profit maximizing quantity and price that this monopolist will set. All right, so this problem, I included the dots just because I knew that natural monopoly is sometimes a little bit harder than other market structures. So I didn't want you to just like be looking at a blank graph. But on the exam, you will not, most likely, if you are given natural monopoly, you won't be given any of that. You'll only be given the curves themselves. But I think that helps as kind of like training wheels. So to start off, find marginal revenue equals marginal cost. That's our first step. Profit maximizing quantity is always where marginal revenue equals marginal cost. And that is going to be at a quantity of 600 units. So profit max Q is 600 units. And then our profit maximizing price So now we go up to the demand curve very similarly to our previous monopoly practice problem, and you just go straight across. So hopefully you can see that while yes, natural monopoly looks different because of the cost structures, it's the same exact steps and it's the same exact curves. So you just follow the same steps that you were doing when you were solving regular monopolies. So we find that the profit maximizing price is $8. All right, so now calculate the deadweight loss. Explain why monopolies have deadweight loss. So first, oh shoot, I was supposed to calculate profit. Okay, so we're also going to calculate profit. So then you look at what is the average total cost at producing a unit when you are making 600 units, and that is going to be $5. So now we solve for profit. Profit equals price minus average total cost times quantity, and that is equal to 8 minus 5 times 600. So that is 3 times 600, which is 1800. All right, and then to shade in the profit, I don't think it asks you to do that, but just so you know where it is. This is going to be monopoly profit. And then now we're on to deadweight loss. So this monopoly has deadweight loss, and when in doubt, deadweight loss is always the triangle pointing to the left, pretty much, or pointing to the right. So deadweight loss, we've seen it a million times. It usually ends up looking somewhat similar, just this triangle in here. And deadweight loss is just the result of a lack of efficiency due to less than the optimal or more than the optimal, but in this case, less than the optimal quantity being exchanged. So to calculate our deadweight loss, first of all, I'll just label it. Um, it is going to be the 1200 because our area of the triangle is going to be 1/2 times base times height. Okay, so then the base of our triangle is going to be from 600 to 1200, which is going to be, I'll just write it out fully, 1/2 times 1200 minus 600. And then the height of our triangle is going to be from 2 to 8, which is 6, but I'll just write it out, 8 minus 2, which equals 1/2 times 600 times 6. So that is also going to be 600 times 3, which is equal to 1800. So deadweight loss. So that is our deadweight loss. It's 1800. It's this area in here, that triangle. And the reason why there's deadweight loss, to explain in words, I think I already explained it, but I'll write it down, is monopolies charge a higher price and sell a lower quantity than socially optimal. So therefore, these three dots say therefore, deadweight loss is the inefficiency of the deviation from socially optimal Q. So really the deadweight loss is just there because we'll get into this in a second with part D, but the social optimal is going to be, I'll do it in a new color, I'll do yellow. This, that doesn't show up too well, I'll do it in blue still. Okay, so this point here is going to be the social optimal. And because the monopoly is only producing 600 units, whereas the socially optimal quantity is 1200, that's where the deadweight loss comes from. So now for part D, what is the socially optimal price and quantity for this good? So remember, it's where demand intersects marginal cost. So it's going to be this point right here. And that is 1200 units. Socially optimal. And then the price is equal to, so now you just go here, and it's equal to $2. Okay, so that is the socially optimal, because remember, socially optimal is where demand intersects supply, and marginal cost for all intents and purposes right now is equal to the supply for the firm. So now we have the second part of the problem. What problem arises if the government tried regulating this monopolist to produce at that level? So what if the government comes in and says, hey, we're setting a price ceiling or some other policy you have to produce at this level. So the government makes the firm produce at that level. Well, the problem is if you take a close look, I'm gonna erase the dot and make it a little smaller so you can tell. There's a difference between the ATC and the MC there. And in this case, the average total cost is greater than the price that we would be selling it for. So that would be operating at a loss, and no firm is going to stay open in the long run when you're operating at a loss. So at a price of $2, the firm would be operating at a loss because the average total cost would exceed the price. So therefore, the firm would exit the market. And if the government's job, if the government wants to increase the quantity exchanged in the market, they really wouldn't want the monopolist to just be like, okay, you've regulated me to oblivion. I'm not even able to stay in the market anymore. That's the last thing that the government would want. So the government has to be very careful in choosing the price that they would set. Uh, and they would want to make sure that they're choosing a price that is not uh, less than the average total cost that it costs to make the good. So they may instead choose a slightly less optimal point for society, but a more realistic point, like here. Yeah. So that is natural monopoly. And then one more thing I would recommend doing, if you have time, if everything so far feels good, if you've taken all the practice exams, taken the Kahoot, done the written response here, go back to the practice exams and look at duopoly, because duopoly is one of the harder ones, and try to work through some of those problems. I'm not sure how important duopoly is, but just if you have extra time, just because I didn't have time to get to that in these videos. But yeah, thank you and good luck on the exam.